God of War is instantly already in my top 5 favorite games of all time. I already made a video talking about this game, and no, it wasn't sponsored. I wasn't given this game. I went out and I bought it just like anyone else. I was skeptical about it before it came out because I'd never played a God of War, but in that video I talked about how I loved it. Well, since then, I've become a little bit infatuated by it, and I've played it a lot. I've played it a lot. I've played it a lot. In my first video about this game, I wanted to make a review without spoiling anything. It's such an incredible game that anything can be considered a spoiler when you've done so many new and exciting concepts in a single video game. However, in this video, everything's a spoiler, from the entire story to how it ends to every single gameplay mechanic that I love. So if you haven't played it, I recommend watching this once you have, because I'm about to ruin everything. The game will not be as fun for you because I am going to talk about all of it. But if you just don't care and you're really still looking for a reason to play the game, or you have played the game, this is the video for you, and I'm so excited to talk about it. Let's start with gameplay, because that's the best part. I love it. Let's start with the axe and everything about it, and that axe mechanic at the start of the game was the driving force behind me loving it so much initially. You hear in these martial art movies, imagine the weapon as an extension of yourself. Never in a video game have I really felt like the weapon is actually an extension of myself. The axe in this game doesn't feel like any other weapon I've ever played with. It's heavy and it's weighted, and you somehow feel that when you use it. The attacks, even the light attacks, you can feel the way they hit. They hit freaking hard. And the heavy attacks, you just feel like a monster. But the thing that really connects you to it is it vibrates with everything it does and really makes you feel like you're connected even when you throw it. You can lob that thing as far as you want. When it hits the ground or hits water or whatever, wherever it is, even if you don't see it or hear it because you threw it so far, the controller will thud. It's not just a vibrate, the controller feels like it's thudding, and you can tell the axe just hit the ground. You are connected to that axe at all parts of the game. But it's really, so much of the game was me just walking around throwing that axe, or in fights just throwing it. And later on in the game you can unlock abilities that if you time it right, you can bring it straight back once you've hit an enemy. There are so many things you can do with the combat in this game, and we'll get to that. Here's the first big spoiler, and again, I urge you to stop watching. If you haven't played this game, I urge you to not spoil it for yourself. But this was such a well-kept secret. I never played the older games, but obviously I knew Kratos' iconic weapons were the dual-wield Blades of Chaos. You get the Blades of Chaos back. I did not know that was coming, but where the axe feels like an extension of your body and you feel every throw, you always know where the axe is, but the Blades of Chaos, they are just wild and crazy, and it's such an amazing yin and yang. You just whip those things around everywhere, and you don't know exactly where they're gonna go. You just know they're gonna hit everything around you, and you're gonna cause enemies to get burn damage and take more damage that way. And even most of the abilities are just these huge bursts of fire to burn your enemies with. There's no control over the Blades of Chaos. They are chaos. Switching between them and coming up with your own play styles and using the abilities for your axe and then switching over and using the abilities for your blades and then just switching to your fists. Your fists feel like a legitimate weapon. They don't feel like you're unarmed. When you just have your fists, even when you're not in Sparta Rage mode, you still feel like you're armed because your fist can patch a hell of a punch. And you have combinations that you can do with your fists as well. Not to mention, while using your fists, your enemies go into that vulnerable state easier where you can press right 3 or you click on the right thumbstick and tear them apart. So it leads all three of these weapons to being extremely balanced, but all being very different. I've never had this much variety in combat and abilities with just 3 weapons. So the more you play the game and you go through, the cooler it gets, but that doesn't change the fact that it's cool right from the start. There's so many things to love about it, and it gives you more and more as you play. So fresh throughout the entire game, I never wanted it to end. And speaking of upgrades, there are so many things you can upgrade. Even down to Atreus, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name, I'm bad at names. You can have a bunch of different outfits to choose from just for him that all have their own different abilities. And then in his ability tree, there's so many different skills you can unlock. And the thing with Atreus, this is a different topic, but the thing with Atreus is he's actually really helpful. In so many games, you have that is the person you're with annoying? Is the character you're escorting, is it going to be an annoying escort? And then you have games like Last of Us where you don't have to worry about them. They're there, they're doing their own thing, they're just adding to the story. Atreus takes that one step further because you don't have to worry about him. You can let him do his own thing. He'll attack enemies, he'll hit enemies with arrows, but he will never get in your way. In fact, when you do certain moves, he'll add to them. If you do a massive swing, he'll run and jump off your back and shoot them and do that little bit more damage. There's so many things that he can do to help without you even worrying about anything to do with him. But if you press square, he will shoot an arrow at something, either a stun arrow or a damage arrow, or if you hold square, he has his own special abilities, and those have a ton of different things he can do. You can get things to unlock a massive stag or a deer that walks through the battlefield and shocks everything as he goes, or my personal favorite is a ton of electric crows that come down, and there's like loads of them, and they'll stun all the enemies, so I have free range of just attacking everything because they're all being stunned. You don't have to do any of that, you can just let him do his own thing, but it's really helpful and does a ton of damage and really helps taking down the larger enemies. So not only do you not have to worry about this kid and just have him be there and add to the gameplay experience, but you can actually use him, unlike in other games, to do a ton of damage and actually help you throughout the game. But the more I played this game, the more I found things I just hadn't experienced before, and that's what I love about it. But getting back to Kratos and his armor, as you play, you unlock more and more armor pieces you can craft, from chest pieces to wrist pieces to waist pieces. Each have their own different abilities, their own strengths, their own uniqueness. As you upgrade those pieces, they can get different abilities and different strengths, and they'll get stronger as you get stronger. As you upgrade them, you get more sockets, so you can put more runes into them, and the runes, there are so many different runes you find as you play, from taking less damage from certain attacks to doing more damage, with chances to heal upon kills or upon parries. There's so many different combinations. Everything you could imagine there's a rune for. Even your weapons can be upgraded to be made stronger, and even your weapons you can put runes into as well. By late game, with a lot of farming in certain areas, I had all legendary armor, and that armor helped me regenerate my own health as I played. Each armor piece I had 3 different rune slots filled with legendary runes, and I really felt unstoppable. And that's another great thing about the game, is it's so rewarding to level up and get stronger because it happens in such small increments as you play. You buy better armor, and then you find a rune and you add it, and you slowly level up, but it takes a long time. Something that's really awesome are the stones that bring you back to life. They're cool for 2 reasons. One, it is pretty unique. There's 3 different stones, unless there's a 4th somewhere I haven't unlocked yet, but I finished the game, so I imagine I would have by now. One brings you back to life with a little health, one brings you back to life with a lot of health, and then one brings you back to life with barely any health, but with a full Spartan rage bar. But it's just a cool item to have. If you're out in the world trying to enjoy the game and you accidentally die, you have that second chance, and you get to realize, oh, this is actually harder than I thought, let me try a little harder to beat this guy. But the other thing that's cool is it's Atreus that comes over and actually revives you, which again, that adds to the feeling of, I'm glad my son is here. It goes hand in hand with not only I'm glad this character is here, I'm glad I have this second unplayable character and he's not a nuisance, he actually helps, but it also adds to a story aspect. It's Kratos wasn't sure if his son was ready to go out with him, if he was ready to go on this journey with him, and now here he is time and time again bringing you back to life and giving you that second opportunity to kick ass. If he wasn't here, you wouldn't have that. It makes you feel connected to him deeper than just how the story is making you feel connected to him, if that makes sense. It's definitely a single player, linear, story-driven game, but at the same time, there's this whole open world that you can explore. It's not super expansive, but it's big enough to give you hours of exploration and finding these little areas and these chests and these dragons and these side quests. There's actually side quests in these games. It's crazy. I don't think I've played a linear game before that had side quests, but they do it in such an amazing way. It's not too open world that it feels like just another open world game, but it's not so linear that it feels like you have no freedom. It's honestly the perfect mix of both. It's one long continual story. There's no loading screens in this game. Not a single loading screen that you see in this entire game. This 30-hour adventure, if you just straight play the game without going crazy like I did and putting way more hours into it because I didn't want it to end, there isn't a single loading screen. And that's even crazier when you consider it isn't just straight linear. The devs didn't know exactly where you were going to be at any given time because it had that freedom of being able to backtrack and go to different areas and go to different little locations. And I could see a game being released in 2018 that's completely linear with no loading screens and being like, wow, there's not a single loading screen, but it's like, it's linear. They knew where you were gonna go. They could hide the loading screens behind certain things at certain parts. They could plan it all out, but it wasn't. It had open world elements and still managed to load everything behind the scenes so you could go anywhere you wanted and do anything you wanted. You could decide when and where you wanted to take the side quests. They even managed to do the quick travel behind a loading screen while you played. And it's this really beautiful environment actually. And the best part about it is obviously while you're walking, it's almost like a giant loop that eventually a door will spawn once it's loaded and you can go through. No matter how many times throughout the entire game I did that, there was always dialogue to be had in that part. There was always a conversation to be had between the head on your hip, Mirror, whatever his name is, and Atreus or yourself. There was dialogue in every part of this game, but the dialogue in those parts really helped it not feel like a loading screen because there will be crucial dialogue to the story most of the time, hidden behind a loading screen. It was brilliant. It's brilliant. And this is actually something I was going to talk about later, but while we're here, there's dialogue through the entire game. No matter what you're doing at any point, no matter where you decide to go, backtrack as far as you want, waste time as much as you want, there will be dialogue through the whole thing. Either dialogue about the story and what the characters are doing and talking about what they want to do or where they're gonna go, but it will also just be stories. The head will tell Atreus stories while you're sailing along about mythology or things that have happened between gods, and there's always these really awesome stories, and it gets to the point where you'll be at your destination where you planned on going, but I just sat in the boat until the story was over just so I could hear the end of it. And it was all great dialogue. There was no like, maybe we should go back and continue this mission. I don't know why we're out here doing this thing. There was none of that. There was no pressure in the game to continue the story. There was no waste of dialogue. There was no repetitive dialogue. The same thing was never said twice. There wasn't any of that, maybe we should go back and do the thing over and over again, reminding you to get back on track. You could do whatever you wanted and the game didn't care. It would just throw more awesomeness at you. And that ties back into the no loading screens because from start to end, it's a story. At the start, I hate saying this even though I know it, I'm doing a spoiler video, but at the start, the mother dies and the very first plan is to take the ashes and to spread them where she wants you to spread them, which was, I forget the name, but at the giant place, I apologize. But the entire story is you trying to get there. Everything that happens, all the setbacks, or the excitement, or the crazy things, it's all one continual story. You left here and you got here and you played every moment of it. There was no, let's go back here, loading screen, here we are. You played every moment. If you needed to be somewhere, you had to go and move to that place yourself. And at the end of the game, you've finally gotten to spread the ashes and you've walked that entire way yourself. You fought that entire battle. You took part in every part of that story. Try and not fall in love with the characters and the world and just be involved with the game when you've literally played every second this journey had to offer. You've played every second of this story. Nothing was told to you or given to you or just done for you. You did it all with your own bare hands and that amazing axe. Damn, I love this game. Okay, that's everything about the game structure itself and the gameplay. Now we'll do the story side of things. Okay, I mean, I don't need to talk about the entire story. That is just spoilers for the sake of spoilers. The storytelling in this game was so brilliant, and a part of that was the constant dialogue through all the characters like I talked about, but the giant cinematic scenes and the sequences and the fights and the battles, every single one was like you were playing a Dragon Ball Z game in some moments with those battles, and the story and the voice acting was so well done and so well written and so well voice acted. It's like you don't want it to end, and it kind of doesn't because you kind of just keep playing. You play through the credits and then it tells you to keep on playing. It's like, well, now you can do these things and there's still more story to be had. The head will keep telling you stories and you just keep playing the game. It's almost like it didn't end. I mean, it did, but they let you down so softly. It's like, yeah, it's over, but it's not really over, and you just keep going. I love it. It wasn't over before it began. There was so much story in there. It was a very decent, honest length. 30 hours is a good length for a game, that even if you just played it from, you know, start to finish, you would have got more than your money's worth out of, and you would have experienced an amazing story, even without all the messing around I did. What's great is that throughout this story, you know, you have your son who Kratos isn't sure about. He's not sure if he's ready. He's kind of really ill-tempered towards him. He doesn't really have much patience for him. And the son wants to prove that he can do this. He can go on this adventure. He's very overzealous. Throughout the story, just through the dialogue and going into fights with your son, this relationship grows and respect grows, and you can feel it. And at the end of the game, when they're fighting together and they're working at like a well-oiled machine, it almost gives you tingles because you've grown that yourself. You've seen that grow. The respect they both have for each other now and the appreciation, it's gone beyond the love for a father and son, and it's grown into a bond. And they have both taken attributes from each other as the game progressed. Atreus is more concerned and cautious. He goes from wanting to help everyone to still wanting to help everyone, but asking them what he can get back in return. So it's a more of a give and take. He's starting to learn the ways of the world. He's becoming a little more cynical, but still with his boyish heart. And he's getting that from his father. At the same time, his father is growing as a character. He's learning to be a little bit more emotional. There's times where he flat out tells his son, we're not doing that. There's no reason to do that. We only do what we need to suddenly he wants to start doing these things to help people. And it almost seems like there's no reason for it other than to help them. And even Atreus realizes this and kind of keeps quiet about it, but loves the fact that his father is softening up. There might be stuff I've missed. There might be more things I love. If there's more things that you love that I haven't talked about, please let me know down below, and let all of us know down below. Continue this gushing session about this game. I'd love to know if anyone actually doesn't like this game. I mean, not everyone gels the same way with certain things. Do you actually not like it? And what are your reasons? I want to know down below. Remember to like this video and subscribe. Thank you for listening to it and watching it. And I know it's not something I usually do, a double review. These drinks are great because they don't have any sugar. They have stevia. I recommend trying them out. Dr. Stevia is like Dr. Pepper. I can barely tell the difference. Highly recommend.